And there we go. There we go.
That one's going. That one we have some kind of message.
Oh,
Hi, guys.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. And this is Why Wait for Recovery's Wacky Wednesday post-hurricane in South Florida meeting. And I'm Felice.
And I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. And I am Haiti, and we made it.
We made it. So we're all here.
And we missed you guys. I must tell you, Sunday, we really, really missed the meeting.
And we know that you missed us too, and that's okay.
It was a little hard getting here in gale force hurricane winds.
At our own house. It was really hard to get here.
Well, I was good. Was everyone else? But I am a compulsive overeater. I'm an emotional eater. I've been a food addict my whole life, essentially, just kind of realizing it now. So it's taken a while for me, for the lights to come on and those aha moments to happen. But I've always had a very unhealthy relationship with food. I've used food as a drug to deal with myself, essentially. But we'll talk a little bit more later.
Which means she's done talking. And I'm Felice, and I'm in recovery.
Yes.
And in Why Wait for Recovery, we do talk about food addiction. We don't have a whole lot of people here at the house, so we hope that we have a whole lot of people out there, because it's kind of hard to get here for tonight. So you weathered the storm okay?
I did.
Okay. How are you feeling?
Good.
Good. With Allison, whenever she has that look on her face or something that she's going to say later that's going to be profound, she's just not going to say it yet. So she's laughing because I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
And Ange, how are you today?
Great.
And Ange is just being a brat. So how are you feeling?
Good.
Feeling okay?
Yeah.
And so tonight we're going to talk about secrets, which is so apropos because you're keeping one for sure.
I always have secrets.
I know.
Always.
And here's the thing, and you know we kid around a lot. I want to give a shout out to a friend of ours that's part of the Why Wait for Recovery community that had contacted me from another state, and we actually have been chatting with each other, and we talked with each other over the phone today. And you guys, addiction sucks, and there are people out there who are really, really, really struggling, and it's scary. And we kid around about it a lot, but it's really not. You know, we laugh and we joke, and we're happy, and we're in recovery. But the addiction part really, really sucks. And it's really scary, and it's super scary when you feel like you're alone. And when we talk about secrets, we talk about the stuff that we're ashamed of. On Why Wait for Recovery, you guys, I had posted something about shame, a TED Talk, actually, and it's definitely worth the 10 or 15 minutes to listen to it because it's really great. And so we find that in addiction, the things that really usually keep us addicted, we could pretty much so trace back to times in our life where we have gone through something that shamed us and we still feel ashamed about. And right now, even, you know, when we're in active addiction, we feel ashamed, right? We feel ashamed to share it with somebody because we feel like we're weak and we don't have willpower, and, you know, and we're worried about the way that other people are looking at us. And we're going to find in recovery that it's going to be about us learning to look at ourselves differently so that we can actually, you know, walk into our greatness and live up to our potential and let go of the stuff that we're holding on to so tight that we have no business holding on to because we have no control over that anyway. And we find that we do keep a whole lot of secrets. And in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, they say that we're only as sick as our secrets. And we're going to find that as we go on through our recovery that that's the truth. So whenever I'm walking around with something, first of all, if I have a secret, it's because I'm ashamed to share something, right? And shame keeps us sick, you guys, right? I'm ashamed to say that I relapsed. I'm ashamed to say that I'm scared. I'm ashamed to say that I did this in the past. I'm ashamed to say that this happened to me. And so I walk around and I think that I'm different. And I think that nobody in the world is like me, and nobody in the world feels like me. And if anybody out there really knew what it felt like to be me, that they would use also, right? And that's pretty much so the way that we look at it until we start learning a little bit about ourselves in recovery. So I just want to touch base really quick. We had a hurricane, and so things changed, right? Things shifted in our world, and to stay clean, when you have a hurricane. I mean, hurricane's like the best excuse on the planet not to stay clean. And I don't care if your drug of choice is food or alcohol or drugs or whatever your addiction is. And so I know that there are going to be a whole lot of people that would have relapsed over this weekend. If you did talk about it, fess up about it, don't matter, it's done. You know, there's no reason to walk around with any kind of shame like that. Something happened, it happened, talk about it, find a solution, get through it, and move forward so that you can move forward with your recovery.
I agree with you. I'm just all of a sudden sitting here in like shame, guilt, and remorse. Okay. No, I mean, honestly, it's like one of those things that all of us do. You know, I carry secrets, and being in recovery, it's something I take seriously, because a year and a half ago, I would have looked at things very differently than I do now. So I did relapse, and I relapsed by smoking cigarettes, which is really one of my old go-to. I'm an addict, so I can easily swap one for another, but I did go back to cigarettes. It's something that I'm working through at the moment, but that's something I've been carrying around. And when I sat here last week, and I know that I'm not being honest, it's inside.
Happens, so something happens, and you don't want to tell the truth about it, which makes you more ashamed and makes you kind of more scared. And so whatever it is that you're reaching for, you're going to reach for more. Because it just keeps you on that spiral. You always talk about that spiral. Keeps you on that spiral. So once you fess up and tell the truth and say, okay, that happened, I did that, and then it's okay to change and not walk around at least with that guilt or with that shame.
Well, by admitting it doesn't take away the guilt and shame. It's just that one step within that direction, because I'm still feeling shitty that I couldn't believe that I'd go back to something that was bad for me, and that I knew I had a problem quitting before and certain things. So I feel better saying something to everybody because the cat's are out of the bag, but I still feel crappy inside that I did relapse and I went back to it.
So let's talk about the difference between guilt and shame. So guilt is I did something bad, and shame is I'm a bad person. And so my therapist talks with me a lot, because when I talk about my relapse a year and a half ago, I always say, yeah, you know, when I was like that piece of shit that relapsed. And she's like, you weren't a piece of shit. You were somebody who was going through something, right? Who had a challenge, who didn't handle it the right way. Do I look at you, if you relapse, like you're a piece of shit? Of course not, because I love you and I care about you. Would I look at you like you're a piece of shit if you're relapsed? Of course not. I don't think you're a piece of shit. Sorry that it happened. Sorry that you have to go through starting over again. And yeah, it's kind of sucky that you had to go through it, but it doesn't make you a bad person. Just means that you did something that you would have been better off if you didn't do. But the act wasn't the best act, but it doesn't make you a bad person. So if I relapse, do you think I'm a piece of shit?
No.
Did you think I was a piece of shit when I relapsed?
No, I never thought before. No.
Right, no. So why would you think you're a piece of shit for relapsing? When you say I'm ashamed means I'm a bad person. Or was I a bad person because I relapsed? No.
I think the shame comes more from the place of being cocky. There's a certain level that I reach in recovery.
We're talking about ego.
Yeah, there's you know, when
they're all chiming in, ego.
You know, I go, I've been clean on this and I've been doing well in this, and all of a sudden screw up in this is kind of a wake-up call that I've let my recovery slide as well.
Okay, and remember, you guys, ego is what I think your opinion of me is, right? And so what Joe Schmo's opinion of you is doesn't matter. It's what your opinion of yourself is. So if you could give yourself that break, if we could give ourselves a break and say, okay, this happened, I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to step into the solution. That feels a whole lot better than, I can't believe I did that. No, I can't believe that I have to tell people. And that's the shame part.
Well, I had to tell you. I said next year, and I'm breathing. I use.
But I think that it was actually a lot more.
No, it's been a lot more,
because
because
it's been a bit of an epiphany for you.
It has. It's been a bit of an eye-opening, because I really went back into those old retreats and back into not wanting to talk to people, and old behaviors for me are very easy to go back to, because that's the safest place to keep the stuff. Is really, I mean, honestly, if I'm talking about it, I have to deal with it. That's the bottom line. If I keep it a secret, no one knows, and it's okay. But when I start talking, then all of a sudden I've got to come up with a solution and start working towards Everyone's different, but for me,
Right.
that's how for me.
1,000% right. And I think
Oops.
pretty much so everybody is like that. I don't think that that's just for you. I think that it's for everybody. And so remember, our addiction ain't about the food. It's not about the drugs or the alcohol, right?
Right.
It's about, they say that we don't have a drinking problem, I don't have a drinking problem, I have a thinking problem. It's about me, the way I view the world, and my behaviors. And when my perspective is skewed and my behavior is skewed as well, I will pick up. End of discussion. I'm telling you, when you go back to your old behavior, that's that whole thing. What do you call an alcoholic horse thief who stops drinking? They're still a horse thief. So you have to change the horse thief part. That's the part that we need to change. The other stuff falls in line. So when I'm in recovery, I don't need to pick up. If I'm not using, don't mean I'm in recovery. If I'm not using, then I'm not using. If I don't change my behaviors, I'm going to use. It's plain and simple. And it's going to happen 99.9% of the time. And so it's about my behavior and about my perspective. When we do step work, the majority of our step work is about our perspective, right? How we view ourselves and how we view the world. Anjali's shaking her head. She's done a poop ton of step work. And so when we change the way that we're looking at the world, simple thing, we always start out talking about our gratitude list, right? When we look at what we're grateful for. You know, I had a patient come in today, and he was complaining. You know, we had a hurricane, and he was complaining, and I was telling the girls this, and he said, so what do you think everybody else is complaining about today? And I said, I think everybody else is grateful. It's just the way you look at it, man. You want to be upset because your trees fell down and you didn't have electricity for a couple of days, or you want to thank God that nobody died and that we're not in Texas. You know, so it's just our perspective.
And we got loads of firewood.
Right, that too in Florida. Firewood is very important. So, but it's really the truth, right?
No, it is the truth.
Yeah.
And I think also part of the learning for me is becoming very blasé. It's actually starting to realize how important working and being in a program is. Mm-hmm. Because by me going off to Africa and stepping out of my meetings and stepping out of doing my step work and stepping out of my safe, comfortable environment, not having, became excuses. I had more and more excuses the further and further away I stepped, because it was easier to step out of it. And everyone else who's doing it becomes one of the go-tos. But then it becomes a question of the excuses and the excuse of whatever's happening around in my world, who's ever sick, whatever the stories are. But at the end of the day, I still made that choice. At the end of the day, it was still me that made that choice, that now needs to go through that withdrawal and that process and do whatever it is to be able to become healthier again. The big step is really starting to talk about it.
Right, and you know, when we go backward, again, we're going backward with our thinking, right? It's not that it's not that I eat a piece of something and then something happens. Once I'm picking up, you guys, I'm already in active addiction. I'm in active addiction way before I pick up. I relapse way before I pick up. Because if I'm not in relapse mode, then I'm not going to pick up. So what's the relapse? If I'm walking around scared, or I'm walking around ashamed, or I'm keeping these to myself, or whatever, and I'm not reaching out, and I'm not in some type of community where I know that someone's got my back, and I know that it's okay to tell the truth, and I know that it's okay to say whatever it is that I need to say, and I know that if there's a challenge, there's also a solution. If I'm not keeping myself in that realm, there's a really good chance that I'm going to use. Because it's what we're used to.
Well, it's the same pattern from before. So I'd start the diet on Monday. I'd be fantastic for a week. I'd be great for 2 weeks. I'd lose the 80 pounds. I'd gain the 80 pounds back. So it seemed to be these cycles of doing the same thing. So for me, it kind of looks like Pavlov's dog. You know, you ring the bell and this is the go-to. And the minute the bell's rung, everything else starts going back to the way that it used to be, that serial dieting almost mentality of, what difference does one puff make, or what difference does one drag make, and then all of a sudden I'm smoking again. So it's the same process, but once it's triggered, it's
absolutely
right. And being in recovery this time, there's a difference between this time and the last time. The difference is I could see it as it was starting to happen. It still didn't take away the shame and the guilt, which made it worse. But But I could see myself, I've become very busy. I make myself busy so I can numb, so I don't need to deal with things and I don't need to think about, but I'm very busy.
And what you don't see too that we do see is that you present differently. Your affect is differently. You're quieter, you know, you're more pensive, you're busier, you're not talking like this. And so other people see that in you when it's happening. That's why other people will walk up to you and say, I don't think you're okay. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's once we get to know each other, it's easy to see it, and that's our saving grace, you guys, is being able to have people that we're close enough to that could say, like, what the F, man? Like, what are you going through right now? You know, like, I see that you're not okay, so talk to me about why you're not okay. You know, with recovery has a lot to do with community, because we're always stronger when we're in a positive community. Always stronger. And so if you're having a crummy day and somebody reaches out and sends you a hug, just that little tiny bit of a hug can mean something, especially if it's from somebody that you know knows how you feel, right? Understands who you are, as opposed to just the people that walk by each other and say hi, right? And so we'll, when we talk about changing our perspective, when I spoke with this young lady today, we were talking about where we are in our lives and what we want from our lives, and about being ashamed. And gosh, you know, first of all, shame is something, you guys, that we do to ourselves. We beat ourselves up pretty good, right? And no matter what, like I said, that shame will keep us in active addiction. And so reaching out and being able to tell the truth about what you're going through, if we do relapse and we talk about it, we start toward recovery again. If we relapse and we don't talk about it, 99% of the time we ain't getting clean again, for sure. For sure. And then when we talk about whatever it was, you feel better. I mean, there's no way around that. You feel better. Yeah, you're going to feel a little bit of that, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm going to tell somebody this, and then I'm going to feel bad, and then the other person's going to say, okay. You know, so that you could get it. Right? It really wasn't that important. Do you think differently of her today? No. Of course not. Do I think it's brave that you did it? Fuck yeah, man. You know, that's the brave part. The part that's not brave, when we lack courage, is when we're afraid to speak. That's when we're lacking that courage. When we speak up and say whatever it is that's in our heart, or what we're afraid about, or that we relapsed, or whatever, that's us being strong, man. That's courage, right? Right? That's what courage is. So that's courageous.
It is.
Yeah. Listen, I sat here after I relapsed, and like, first of all, I went to a meeting, and every single day I raised my hand to say how little days I had, because I was so ashamed, because I had 7 years clean, and I was so ashamed, and I kept that shame for quite a while. I really did. So now it's easier for me to say it, because now I have like 17 months, a little bit over 17 months, so it makes it a lot easier.
Right.
So, and by the way, that 17 months went by like in a blink. In a blink.
Well, what's most amazing to me is in a year and a half, what I've learned and been through, to all of a sudden go back into those old responses, even though we've done so much work. Do you know what I'm saying? To be able, that just instinctively, that my thinking really is thinking. I mean, most of the time, that automatically I'll revert back to that, even though I've been in a healthier, happier place for so much longer. It's interesting to me how just one little trigger and everything goes back down to...
Yeah, and what I'm going to tell you, it's not the one little trigger. And so I had 7 years, over 7 years clean. And so it's really not just one little trigger. There's always going to be a straw that breaks the camel's back. There's always going to be... It's almost like this opportunity that the universe presents in front of you, that when you're not strong in your recovery... Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
When you're not strong enough in your recovery... You just need that little bam, and that's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and then you're off to the races. So, and then it's like, while it's happening, you know it's happening, but you can't believe it's happening, and you don't want to believe it's happening, you don't want to believe that you're going back to those behaviors, and then we start with the behaviors. I don't want anyone to know, so I'm going to be secretive. It's okay, I'm going to take care of it by myself. I'm going to go through this by myself. Did you say that? I could do this by myself or something like that when we had a conversation yesterday?
As interesting as what difference does one make?
Right, right.
And it does.
Yeah, and that makes
it really makes a difference.
You want to share anything? Talk. You know you have something profound to say that everybody on the planet wants to hear.
I don't know if it's profound, but I during the hurricane, I was like, you know, it's stressful and you're nervous and like at those times, like hurricane time, get your snacks, like your bread, your chocolates, like Twinkies, whatever it is, just sit down and consume all of it. Like that's what you do during hurricanes. So preparing for this hurricane was very different. You know, I was proud of myself that I was able to make right choices.
Good.
I felt very compulsive at times because I don't know if it was the stress, but I was like hungry like every hour.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna gain like 100 pounds, like, you know. But I made it through, and I was very proud of myself for doing that. And today I was like, oh, I'm fine. Like, it, you know, it's
Isn't
all
that so
that
funny?
Yeah, it's like all that build up for nothing,
Yeah.
and all that stress and worry and anxiety, and then you're like, oh, I'm okay. You know?
So what you said was super important. So you said, I don't know, maybe it's the stress. Yeah, it is. Because your brain is used to dealing with stress a certain way. So for 156,000 years, you were stressed, and then you ate the Twinkies, or you ate the whatever. That's what you did, right? That was your go-to. It's your drug of choice, right? And so that's what your brain's used to. And so it's super easy to fall back into autopilot and then start making those excuses. Well, it's the hurricane, and you know, Publix isn't open anyway. It's not like I'm going to get to the farmer's market. And you know, anybody else, I mean, I'm stuck in the house, and not like you're going to die, right? If you don't eat something every hour, right? So yeah, it gives you that perfect opportunity to bullshit yourself into letting your addiction win. Yeah. Yeah, it sucks, guys. It sucks, but it is the way that it is, and we're different. And so because we're different, there are certain things that we have to do to prepare ourselves for certain situations.
Yeah. And I can definitely relate to that.
So the hurricane and road trips always like fitted into the same category for me. Coming here and living here, road trips was you buy as much crap as possible and you consume as much as possible between start A to point B, and then you knew that you got there. That was how they went, and hurricanes were the same thing. So it was very interesting for me as well shopping this time, because I had to get something for everybody. Like everyone had different shopping needs, but it's one of the few times, because it's 10 years since the last hurricane that we actually had it here. It's one of the few times that I actually made a point of shopping for me. Like I'd actually go before I'd eat whatever there was, because whatever was in here was for everybody. This time I actually made a point of making sure that stuff that I needed that didn't need to be refrigerated, or stuff that I could have just in case, was here and available. So everyone was happy, doing whatever they, you know, eating whatever was good for them.
And I'm going to tell you, that hurricane 10 years ago, I haven't had a drink in 10 years. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm sure I drank enough, not that I remember that much of it, in that last hurricane for pretty much so everybody in South Florida. And so when you talk about your shtick, that was like mine. Like, okay, well, there's going to be a hurricane, so I better make sure that I have a lot of really big bottles.
We would have been the ideal party. You would have had the drinks, I would have had the snacks.
And then you call your doctor, you know, I'm in pain, so I need at least 120, 80 milligrams of OxyContin, because what happens if I can't get back to the doctor? So, and I was that girl, and so that was the girl that I was before that last hurricane. God bless me. Anyway, so you said that you could definitely relate with Haiti.
In regards to the
Trading
the
addictions.
ball, that too, but the ball, definitely trading addictions. But the ball rolling, like, and the little like things that kind of like make the ball bigger, you know, like, and
That's
you know,
snowball.
it is subtle. It is subtle. But it's compounded, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, like I've relapsed and I don't know what.
And it can be as simple as licking your finger when you made something.
Yeah.
You know,
But
it can really start with
remember,
like
you guys, it's never about the licking your finger when you need something. Susan's telling me something. Oh no, that's somebody else. Sorry. So it's never about licking the finger, because you relapse way before
you lick the
you
finger.
lick the finger. way before that.
Wasn't it a great feeling though to go through the hurricane? Because normally I'd go through these things and really feel crap the next day. Wasn't it a great feeling to be able to go through this and know that you made great healthy choices instead?
For sure.
And that as tough as it was, that it wasn't as traumatic as you thought it would be, not having these things or not.
Yeah, because it's a bit of a panic at the beginning. I mean, other than the panic of like, holy shit, we might die. There's a panic.
Well, I've got to tell you something. So there's a saying for Jewish people, okay, and amongst Orthodox.
But you can hear it too. What do you?
Yeah. So you say that you want Mashiach now, which means like that is when the Savior is coming, because we believe it's coming. Yeah. So Friday I'm busy putting all my stuff. You know, I know we're talking about Mashiach coming. I just wasn't planning on him coming tomorrow. Okay. So that becomes a whole question. Well, if I'm going to die tomorrow, do I eat the bag of potato chips? I mean,
yeah.
And we didn't.
We've had that conversation.
We didn't. So that's amazing. Yeah.
And it's funny because my patients that I did see today, I didn't have very many patients today. Not a lot of people have electricity.
They trees all over. Okay, and power's still down.
But a couple of patients that I did have, we had those conversations about, before, okay, so there's going to be a hurricane, so you have to get, 50 different kinds of potato chips and this and this and this. And I'll tell you that every one of my patients that I saw today used that as an excuse. Oh, yeah. And I was like, you're right. We happen to be fortunate enough that we got muscle milk, but nobody else on the whole entire planet could.
Listen.
We got all the muscle milk in the whole South Florida.
Can I tell you? Purging without water is not fun.
Right. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah. That's not good. And there's still that, it's so crazy, our addicted brain is so friggin' nuts, ma'am, that we still go through that. So it's great. It's the end of the hurricane, and I got through it, and I didn't use.
Let me celebrate.
And then, but then in the back of your mind, there's still that place that thought, and if I did use, like,
who would know?
Anybody even know?
Exactly.
Who would know? I mean, I was in my house by myself. Like, who would even know? If I just had, like, a little drink, like, I pee test for 5 years, so that doesn't work for me. But thank you, God. But
we should be able to potato chip test
for potato chips. We should. It would be so much. Listen, it's whatever helps you not to pick up helps you not to pick up. You guys, without the recovery, we pick up anyway. No matter whether we're pee testing or potato chip testing or whatever we're doing.
And what's amazing, even between the power on, power off at the times, the community was still talking. I mean, all of us were still at times reaching out to each other, and we're still doing our gratitude list. So no matter what there was going on, it was great being able to have that little bit of a contact,
Yeah. And you did your gratitude list and you didn't have no power. She still did.
So,
she's a good student.
Be aware there's probably going to be 20 gratitude lists I posted later as soon as the power kicks in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about?
Nothing that I could think of right now.
Okay.
But I completely can relate to you, Heidi. I think it's so hard. It's not an easy thing to do. And I worry about that too. Like, I worry oftentimes, because I'm a worrier, about somehow distancing, because shit happens, life happens, distancing myself from the community that we have here, and then saying, oh, it's fine, I'll go back next week, and then not go back, or I won't do that. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm gone, like I'm far away and outer darkness, like there's nothing, you know what I mean? So that's fear, because even like going away or that change is always your brain, that subtle changes, your brain can be like go crazy, you know what I mean? Like it's terrifying.
Yeah. And so we had touched on this a little bit before you and I did, and we talk about fear. And that our fear is unrealistic, right? So the fear, we say fear is, I'm going to lose something that I have. I'll lose touch with my community, right? Or I'm not going to get what I want. I won't keep my recovery. So when you're talking right now, that's the fear that you're talking about. And I'm going to say this again, and I said it last time. My kid was 17 when he died in an accident. So if he spent years 16 to 17 worrying about whether he was going to go to college or if he should go to trade school or if he should join the Navy or whatever, he spent that year worrying, he would have spent the last year of his life worrying for nothing. because the rest of his life never came. And so when we're worried about what's going to happen in 6 months, that's when we talk about missing the movie. So we want to plan for the future. So how do we do that? We stay connected. If we go away, we stay connected. You went to Africa, I must say, you could have stayed a lot more connected than you did.
I could have.
Yes, you could have.
Yes, I
and
could
so
have.
yeah, and so
There were the means, and I made choices.
right, exactly. And so you plan for the future.
Right.
So you plan to make sure that you're staying in touch with your community, but you live right now, because you may not have tomorrow. I can drop dead tomorrow, and then, you know, whatever happens, happens, right, with the world around me. And so when we're worrying about what may or may not happen, when we're living in tomorrow, we're missing the today. That's the same thing as when we're going back and saying, well, if I only do this, and if she only said that, and if I could have done this, and if I would have worn that, and if I only did this, and if I didn't do that.
So let me break it down to food terms. It's those things. Monday morning, we're starting that diet. And today we are not touching any starches. And that's all we think about is today we're not having it, we're not having it, and then boom, we have it.
So what you're going to learn when you do step work, I really can't wait till you do step work. But what you're going to learn when you do step work, you guys, we're starting our classes the middle of October. So we'll give you an exact date soon, because that's for sure. You're going to learn how to stop walking around with so much fear. You're going to learn about giving up control, about understanding that the only thing that you have control over is your own perspective and your own actions, that you could show up and do your best to do your best, and the entire world is going to turn the way that it does. There's nothing you can do about that. So it was like before the hurricane, for me, I wasn't scared at all. I was a little pissed off at Joe because it took him forever to get some lumber, so we had to spend a lot of money getting stuff to board up the house. But I wasn't scared at all. We went to Angie and I went to Publix 864,000 times. We went to Costco 963 times because we got stuff for your mom and your grandma and my parents and our house and the kids and the dogs and the whatever. So we planned, and we had a good plan, and we got done what we needed to get done, and we actually had a lot of fun. And the house got boarded up, and whether we were going to lose power or not, or, you know, my thing is Netflix. If we were going to lose Netflix or not, whether I worried about it or not.
That would have been hell.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Poor Anjali sitting here hasn't had electricity for 5 days.
I know.
But whether or not those things were going to happen, me worrying about it, wasn't going to change anything. If the roof was going to fall down, whether I worried about it or not, it was going to fall down. And if the roof wasn't going to fall down, whether I worried about it or not, wasn't going to make it stay up. We have a question?
Yes.
Yes, we have a question.
So this question is from Jessica. She
Hey,
asks,
Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
does anyone else fear being too much, though? Sometimes I feel like I'm too much for people, like I'm annoying and I fear rejection.
I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about this today. So, funny, I was really thinking about this question today.
Everybody thinks about this.
When I was younger, I never thought I was attractive. Like, I never thought that I was pretty enough or good enough. And I used to hang out with the really popular kids. And I was always that chunky kid that could be pretty if I lost weight. Like, that's what I always heard from people. Like, you'd be really pretty if you lost weight. So I had really popular friends that dumped me, so I took that personally. And then I made really poor choices when it came to friends. I mean, I really looked towards people. So growing up, I then get devastated that the people that I thought were my friends were dumping me because I never felt good about myself in the beginning when I started out, and I was making really bad choices. So yes, I was thinking about this today.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Again, I'm going to tell you, and I need for you guys to hear this. We ran a meeting tonight. Yes. When this meeting is over, there will be some people out there that are going to say, I can't believe those girls even think they know what they're talking about, and they're wasting our time, and I can't believe I even clicked on it, and they're so stupid, and they talk about recovery, and they probably don't know what they're talking about. They're probably using anyway, right? And then there might be some people that are going to say, oh, did you see the meeting? And it was so wonderful, and they talked about all the things that were bothering me, and I'm saved. We show up the way that we show up. You view it the way that you view it. This is a really important thing about control. So I have zero control over how you feel about me. The only thing that I could do is show up and do my best to do my best. To be as happy as I can be. To be gracious and to be kind, right? To do those things that I believe is the universe's intention for me. That's what I believe if I would have to guess. And if you don't like me, too effing bad. Because there's nothing I can do about you liking me. The only thing that I can do is my best to do my best. And if you don't like me, it's not about me. It's about you. If we have 10 people sitting on this couch and at the end of tonight, 5 of you loved me and 5 of you hated me, I presented the same exact way to all 10 of you, right? I show up the way that I show up. If you think you're too much, first of all, listen, you guys, it's scary to put yourself out there. And so, Jessica, it's scary for everybody to put themselves out there. It really is. It's scary to be vulnerable. Please, we talked about this today, Jess. Please watch that thing about shame. It's scary to be vulnerable. It's scary to, if you're good and you're kind and people aren't hanging out with you, then find other people who are good and kind to hang out with. Don't worry about, first of all, Anjali, can you change the way that I feel? No. Do we work on this a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Anjali and I work on this a lot. This is something that you guys would be great to chat with each other about. So no matter how Anjali was my sponsee, she's my friend, she's like one of my kids. She shows up however she shows up. If she's pissed off, which she gets pissed off at me, if she's pissed off, if she's happy, if she's sad, it doesn't change the way that I feel about you. It's how you're presenting. It's how you are. So if you're in a shitty mood and you present, I have a choice. I could say, you know what, Anjali really doesn't like me and she didn't really treat me right and she's really a bitch and I don't know why I'm hanging out with her because she was mean to me. Or I could say, hey, you know what, I saw Anjali today and I think she's having a real hard time. So maybe we should reach out to her later and make sure that she's okay. That's about me. That's not about you.
So I just have to say something. They're the 5 people in the room that love Felice and the 5 people that don't. At the end of the day, it doesn't change the way she feels about herself. Because at the end of the day with recovery, one of the things that I'm learning with recovery is the power behind recovery, the power that it gives me in terms of making choices. I'm becoming less codependent the more I work on my program in recovery because it doesn't matter what other people think. Well, at the end of the day, the most important thing is what I think and feel about myself. If I like myself, and I'm a pretty good person, I mean, it's taking me time to enjoy myself and getting to know myself. That's part of the process that is the difficulty for me in recovery, is focusing on me and getting to know me. But at the end of the day, the more we do that and the more we work our program, it doesn't matter what other people think because it's the things that matter to us.
Right, but the thing is how we get there is realizing that I have no control over how you feel. The only thing I have control over is how I act and how I see things. I have no control over whether you like me or not. If I'm showing up and do my best to do my best and you don't like me, you don't like me. It doesn't have anything to do with me.
And there's a difference in not liking, that not liking of if you, I don't like you, if you don't like me kind of thing, or just that acceptance. And there's a certain level in recovery that is a shared love in sense, because if you don't love me, I respect that, and you are who you are, and that's okay.
And for me, I really don't care.
And you want the best for you.
I'm sorry, but I don't care. If I'm showing up and I'm doing my best to do my best and you got a problem with me, cool. Doesn't change the way that I feel. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say that I think it's important to add, well, I know you kind of said this before, but you make it sound really, really easy when you say it. And it's not that easy.
It's so hard.
It is
so hard. But, and let me tell you something, you guys. I had 7 years clean. I relapsed for a while, and I have almost a year and a half clean again. I've done step work a billion times. Doing step work, learning how to grow in recovery is what makes it not so hard. Sitting here thinking about it, don't do nothing. Chatting about it helps a little bit. Talking about it when we're scared, and thank you for sharing, Jess. Talking about it when we're scared or when we're feeling ashamed or we're feeling, scared to share or whatever, opening ourselves up, that helps a little bit. Doing the work to actually understand that that's the way that the universe turns, that's really what helps us so much more. Giancarlo, I love you so much, my son. Giancarlo and I had this huge conversation about this, and he was like, Mom, that was like the biggest moment in my life is when I realized after you said it to me 80,000 times, that the only thing he has control over is his own perspective and his own actions. He doesn't have control over his boss's perspective or actions, no matter how good or horribly he does his job, right? He doesn't have any control over if I'm mad at him today or not. If he shows up and does his best to do his best and I'm in a mood, that's about me. Those are Anjali. When you say that, and so Anjali says it's really, really hard, and that's because Anjali works really, really hard. And you've done a lot of work. Or really, she's done an incredible amount of work, and you've come so far, and it is so hard. And so when she says it, I just want to make the point that you ain't just saying it, because you're doing it. You've done the work, and you know how hard it is, and you know how scary it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so to finish my thought from before, I was saying it's so hard relating to Jessica and some of the other people who are commenting here, that just because you do the work, it's not a linear process. You have to remember that it's going to be harder sometimes it's going to be easier. And I've been doing it for 6 months, and you see the gain sometimes really quick, and then you plateau and you kind of have to work through other things that are more difficult. And for me, this actually happens to be something I struggle with more so than anything else.
I just want to say, in terms of doing the work, it's more effective and we get more out of it by doing it with someone else. So we do the work in terms of doing the workbook, but to actually work with someone else going through it, because we've spent so much time in our own heads in terms of doing our own work in our own heads that we just stay stuck. That is really important to get outside ourselves and actually interact with another person while we're doing this work as well.
Yeah, and it is a truth, you guys. Sometimes we're going to take 2 steps forward and 10 steps back. And those extra 8 steps that we took back is going to teach us, when we get back to those 2 steps forward that we have, we're going to be different and a little bit stronger for our next 2 steps forward. And that's just the way that it works. Guys, life is always going to happen. Our brain is always going to remember how we used to deal with stuff. Right? It's like falling back into behaviors that we had when we were little, or looking at the world like we did when we were little. It's kind of how our brain is trained. And so we're going to relearn and recover. We're actually going to relearn how to live. Are we going to have, do I wake up? Listen, do I wake up every day? Yeah. No, I don't. Right? Do I call you guys and I'm like, I'm in such a bad mood, I really wish I could use today, or I don't want to be in recovery today, or whatever. Yeah, I have those days. Fortunately, I have a whole lot of good days and not as many bad days. When I first got clean, I had a whole lot of bad days and a couple of good days, until I had a couple of more good days and a couple of more good days. And then something shifts and you have a couple more good days than you do bad days. And then you have a lot more good days than you do bad days. And yes, we're going to fall back. Go ahead.
So recovery, it took a long time for me to understand. Recovery is not punishing ourselves. It's actually giving us a doorway of incredible joy and freedom in a certain way. Because even though we're abstaining from certain things, and I know it sounds like I'm starting that diet again and I'm going to be abstaining and I can't ever, no way, and it's a punishment. What you gain by starting the process and going through the process far outweighs what you've lost by giving up certain things, because you gain so much more.
Yeah, guys, you know what we get to give up? We get to give up the misery. Yeah. We get to give up the shame. We get to give up the hurt. We get to give up the scared.
The guilt?
Those are the things that, guilt. Yeah. I have a different take on guilt.
Well, I'm born with guilt.
Yeah,
I mean, it comes with the territory.
Guilt for me, when I OD'd in Giancarlo's house, when I tried to kill myself, man, I still feel guilty about that. For me, the guilt reminds me that I did something wrong and I'm never going to do that again, or I don't ever want to do that again. I hated myself for it. Do I hate myself for it? No, I don't hate myself for it anymore. So the shame I'll let go of. The guilt or the remembering, I'm not sure how much of that I will let go of. And I'm going to tell you, we think that we're giving stuff up, but our addiction is our prison. It keeps us locked away in fear and
nightmare.
Shame. Yeah. And we're an active addiction, you guys. We're scared. I can only talk for me. when I'm in active addiction, I'm scared 24/7, man. I'm scared from the second I wake up until the second I go to sleep because I'm lying all the time.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm planning, I'm juggling, I'm
And you're lying.
shifting, I'm lying.
You're lying
I mean,
to
the
you,
whole
you're
time.
lying to everybody else. It's really
It's
exhausting. And it's horrifying. And for me, that's a really shameful place to be.
And when I'm exhausted, I'm mean. When I'm exhausted, when I'm not eating properly, when I'm craving, I am so mean. I don't want to be near me.
I'm not mean. I just hide.
No, I'm mean.
I hide. Ooh, can't find me.
Well, that's the safest place to put your secrets, okay?
Exactly. So nobody gets to see.
So,
Did anybody say anything else? Yeah. Okay, people are saying lots. So what are we saying?
So somebody asked, how do we get over our emotional eating? I had replied by saying by working in recovery, but maybe you have something more to add.
You guys, so how we get over emotional eating, what we mean is how do we start in recovery? Because again, it's not the emotional, anything that we do addictively is emotional. It's to change the way that we're feeling. So whether I'm having a certain feeling and I drink, or I'm having a certain feeling and I eat, or I'm having a certain feeling and I drug, or I gamble, or I have sex with 17 random folks, or whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever I'm doing to change my brain chemistry because I'm uncomfortable with the way that I feel. And so that's what we're talking about. And so in recovery, it's learning to get comfortable. First of all, learning to feel, learning that it's okay to feel. And if we feel bad, we don't die from feeling bad. Learning that feelings aren't facts. Again, they're just feelings. So they come and they go away and we live through them and we'll grow through them as well. And so you're talking about a great question, by the way. So you're talking about learning to work a recovery program. And those are things that we're going to start doing a lot more of together.
the third
very
week
shortly.
in October.
Yeah, the third week in October. Anjali is typing really, really fast, so. And I can't read that far away because I'm really old.
We got most of them.
Okay, we got most of the questions. Guys, if you have any questions, please type in so that we can answer them as best as we
So
can.
I just want to quickly touch on this. There are different options in terms of participating in meetings. So I thought while we're on this topic.
Sure.
So you can either watch the live stream, which is very passive, and you can type in your questions, and if we can get to them, we absolutely want to. But there's also the way of using your voice and being able to communicate, which is really powerful in recovery because it puts you in the room. So we've got different formats. Zoom is one of them. If you look at our post on Facebook tonight, it explains how to get in. And then you will see Felice and myself, and we will only see you, no one else will see you. And you'll be able to talk to us like you're in the room. And you can also type up questions if you want.
Yeah.
Or you can just sit there and participate that way as well.
Yeah, if you want to.
But it's essential. We have gone to a lot of effort to make it as our meetings as accessible as possible. They are free. So everyone and anyone can participate. So you can either call in, you can watch them. There are so many ways of being here. You can share them and record them and watch them later. Is the other option.
With your friends, because, you know.
So Sundays we meet at 9 o'clock.
Can you also real quick just talk about meal planning?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
So essential to me is, as an emotional compulsive overeater, is one of...
As an emotional compulsive overeater, when you're in recovery.
When I'm in recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you. It takes planning. So everything takes planning. Planning on working on myself, on my steps, on meetings. Everything takes planning being in recovery because I'm that important. I mean, I'm worth it. Essentially, my health is that important to me. Part of that is the food. Because if I'm left to my own devices, I start swapping, I stop skipping meals, I all of a sudden start thinking, I haven't eaten the whole day, let me grab this at the checkout. So it's really essential that if I can plan ahead, so prep ahead, plan ahead, so I don't need to think about it, and tell someone what I'm eating and being able to stick to a meal plan. Whatever that meal plan looks like, really depends on you because every one of us are different. We all have different trigger foods, but have a meal plan. And it's important that you make it a priority because like anything else, as an addict, I think if I think for myself I'm in a better place, I'm not. I have to follow a program and be rigorous about it.
Yeah, and so you guys, in time, will there ever be a time that you don't have to meal plan? I think so. Just like there are times that I'm cool to go to a bar, you know what I mean, and hang out and know that I'm not going to drink. In the beginning, these are the things that we have to do to keep ourselves safe. In the beginning, I didn't go to a bar, and no, I didn't even go to a restaurant where somebody was drinking, because it made me pissed off and resentful and more apt to drink. So no, I wasn't going to do that. So those were some of the ways that, you know, that I kept myself safe. And you're talking about the tools that you use to keep yourself safe, especially in the beginning of, remember, we got to get our brains clean before we can actually fall into some type of recovery program, right? Walk through some type of recovery program. Because while our brain's firing that dopamine receptor, gimme, I feel happy, I feel sad, it's Tuesday, you know, I want more, I want whatever, everything is asking me for that drug, right? And so your drug of choice is rice, bread, potato, pasta, sweets, whatever it is that's touching that dopamine receptor, you got to stop. And so stopping and planning is absolutely imperative so that you can start a recovery journey. So we could clean our brain out, right?
Exactly. And well, that gives us the ability to be able to think clearly. A lot of things start changing. You start smelling things start shifting and changing when we start clearing. Those are allergens in my body.
Yeah, absolutely.
They trigger me to do a whole lot of different things. Take them out and I start functioning differently. I start thinking differently. But also, I'm an addict. At the end of the day, no matter what, I'm an addict. So if I'm left to my own devices, I get into trouble. If I'm in a program, there's a greater chance of success for me.
Much greater chance.
And the first 90 days are hell. I'm telling you, they are tough. They suck. They really do. Yeah. So we're dealing with the physical withdrawals. We're dealing with the old behaviors. We're dealing with all this stuff.
We're dealing with having feelings and not using over those feelings, which in the beginning is horrifying. It's hard now when you have time. It's horrifying when you don't have too much time. So that's really scary.
So we meet Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
It's
the best time of the day. We also have a group on Facebook called Downsizing Weight Loss. I practice 5 times.
Downsizing Weight Loss, you guys, is a private group. So if you want to join, if this is your struggle and you want to join, go ahead and look on Facebook. You can actually go to Why Wait for Recovery, and I think you could click on downsizing, right?
Yes, you can.
You could do that.
And who do we actually work with? I mean, who's part of our community? If you are an emotional eater, if you are a compulsive overeater,
if you're a binger
or a purger,
right,
or
if
a serial dieter,
a binge eater, and then we're an anorexic,
right, or if you've gained and lost over 600 pounds in your lifetime,
and
welcome
just for
to the club.
Our regular old alcoholic, drug addict, anorexic selves, you're welcome to join as well.
So we are basically. Do you want to lead out with the promises? Because it's a bit...
We don't have to. We have the promises. We
have the promises.
So usually Wednesday night...
So I have a question before you...
Oh, sorry. We have a question before the promises.
So let's say we're doing everything we're supposed to and we feel like stuck. Do you think that it's possible to... Is it possible to be fully in recovery? Where you're happy most of the time?
You guys, ask around. Am I happy most of the time? Ange? Yeah. Am I happy most of the time?
Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. And that's because I learned to let go of a whole lot of stuff and learned how to accept the world for the way that it is. And I work diligently in my recovery. You guys, I come to meetings, I do step work, I have a sponsor, I have sponsees.
You are service. You are in service.
I'm in service a lot, right? I'm in service a lot. Reach your hand out to another sick and suffering addict and get out of your own head when you're having a bad
Gratitude.
day. Do stuff like that. Do your gratitude list, you guys. Takes a couple of seconds. Do it every night. It changes your perspective before you go to sleep. Start taking the little baby steps. Ultimately, can we be happy in recovery? Yeah. Do I get stuck sometimes? For sure.
You know, not every day is going to be a fantastic day. Not every day is going to be a happy day, but I promise you something good is going to happen every single day.
And I can promise you today looked a whole lot better than when I was using. I can promise you that. I can promise you that I'm so much happier and so much healthier emotionally and physically, but mostly spiritually. I'm so much happier and so much healthier. That was a really good question, by the way. You cool?
Yep.
We cool? I'm going to read the promises. I don't have glasses on. From the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because this is my favorite. The promises. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things, and we're going to gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that the universe is doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We don't think so. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but they will always materialize if we work for them. I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. I'm grateful that all you guys out there were listening. I hope that you guys reach your hand out to another sick and suffering addict. My name is Felice. Blessed and grateful. Thank you for being here.
I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. My name is Heidi, and I just say thank you, all of you, for stepping up during the hurricane and for all the help we got and all the love we received and all the compassion and just...
And Anjali, thank you.
Yes,
from my
thank
heart
you.
and my head and my soul. Thank you always for all of your help. Thank you for being an inspiration for me, Allison. I appreciate your input. Peace out, you guys.
Peace out, everybody. Have a good night.